It's dangerous stuff. I don't like talking about it, the fact that it's dangerous, because it generates fear, and I don't want people to be afraid. That's the other thing. People go, oh, the psychic world training, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm afraid of it, And it's like, well, it's happening anyway, so you're better off to know about it. You're better off to know that you're being influenced, or other people are being influenced, or at least what you're dealing with and how to deal with it. But it's hard to kind of talk about it without people getting afraid. I don't want to make anybody afraid, but I also don't want people getting hurt or bad things to happen to them. And they can, unfortunately, they can. In fact, most of the terrible things that are going on in the world are to do with the psychic world, are to do with people being influenced, because the unconsciousness in them resonates with the unconsciousness in the psychic world, or vice versa. And so I wish it wasn't this way, but it is this way, So, so this is the part where I want your help, because, if you're not interested in it, great, that's fine. That's no problem at all. As I say, it's my preference not to talk about it too much, because my focus is on the mystery, because it's like, the psychic world is a little bit like a rough neighborhood that you're driving through. It's not great, so you maybe you lock the doors, maybe you roll up the windows, and you just go through. You don't stop for petrol there. You just stop unless you have to, but you just keep going. And it's a bit like that. It's like you go through it on the way to the mystery, but you don't stop and you don't go sideways. So how to talk about that? How to describe it? How would you describe it? How would you like it described in a way that is of interest to you, if you are interested in it? Because people sort of go, they're not interested. It's a bit like the Enlightenment training. No one mentioned anything about being interested in enlightenment until I mentioned I was doing an enlightenment training, and then suddenly people were coming out of the woodwork going, oh, I've been trying to get enlightened for 40 years. I've been trying to get enlightened for, I'm really interested in it. Oh, okay. So it's kind of the same, Now you mightn't be interested. You mightn't relate to the psychic world, but you might relate to fairies. You might relate to guides. I'm really into my guides, or I'm really into my higher self, or I'm really into aliens, or I'm really into beings in other dimensions that speak to me. I'm really interested in channeling. I'm really interested in automatic writing, or anything else, the Akashic records, or anything at all that's classified as paranormal, anything like that. It's all part of the psychic world. And once you understand how it works and how you deal with it, and all this is has come from my own direct experience. I got a good start with Barry Long. He was onto it. He kind of knew that it was a distracting place. But Barry wasn't a therapist, he was a journalist who turned into a spiritual teacher and guru, according to him. Whereas, I've been working with people for 30 years, and it just comes up. It just comes up over and over and over again. The sort of different things that people have to deal with. Yeah, often the problem goes back to the psychic world, either through influence or some kind of possession or some kind of something, on the person, or that kind of thing. So it goes on whether you know about it or not. So that's why I'm kind of going, I have to address it in some way. So there's that. What to call it? I don't want to frighten people off, but then it's like saying, how do I talk about fire without talking about the heat? So let me know what you think, or let me know what appeals to you. Maybe it should be lots of different little trainings. Like if you're interested in fairies, I'll do a fairy training. Let me know. And then the other thing is what's your interest? what part of the psychic world are you interested in your spiritual life? Because people think that it's all part of the same thing. That like, oh yes, I'm very spiritual. You know, I see people saying I'm very spiritual. I'm really interested in channeling ascended masters. You know, ascended masters are in the psychic world. They're facing the wrong way. You know, they're still a part of them that's fixated on existence, instead of like, go all the way, mate, go all the way, continue on into the mystery, you know, just the mystery. You know, you came out of the mystery. Why are you hanging around in the psychic world trying to teach people, you know? Or people might say, I'm interested in channeling, you know. It's like, that's consciously letting something speak through your mouth. That's possession. Like, why would you do that? Like, because, you know, what are you doing while you're channeling? You know, you're not growing consciously. You know, you have to listen to the recording, and if you can't hear it yourself, and if you can't hear it yourself, how is that making you more conscious? You know, you're just letting something that's facing the wrong way flap your gums and have its little bit of life, even though it's like in its mind, it's like, oh, and I'm helping the humanity. It's like, go into the mystery, continue all the way into the mystery, finish the journey. And trust the mystery to do it, which it does, which it will. So it's a big subject, okay? It's not something that I can cover in a short little episode of the podcast, but it is a big thing. It's important to understand it. I want to, as I say, I have lots of experience of it, and I want to help. That's why I do any of this stuff, is to be of help, because I see regularly in my one-to-one sessions the effects of this, and how devastating it can be, and how much misinformation there is about it, and how it gets tied up in this being a rebel thing and showing mom and dad that, you know, it was true, and inadvertently inviting in a lot of dark stuff and laboring under this misconception that you can control it and that you can you know, oh, keep the bad stuff out, which you can't, and not knowing where the real power is and all this kind of stuff. So let me know what is of interest to you, what questions you have about it. And well, I'll give you an example, right? Often people who know a little bit about the psychic world think that you have to protect yourself from the dark forces. That's what you have to do. That's how you can do it. You can open yourself to your angels and yes, angels are in the psychic world too. Angels, you can open to yourself to your guides, but you have to protect yourself, which doesn't work. Protecting yourself from the psychic world pulls you deeper into the psychic world, because the psychic world is like here. It's dual. It's full of duality, the good stuff and the bad, you know, friendly energies and the unfriendly energies. So if you are getting into a fight with them, fight for good and evil, anything like that, there's none of that in the mystery. There's no duality in the mystery at all. So getting out your smudge sticks, having your favorite rose quartz crystal, having, you know, whatever hex, whatever thing you do, none of it works. None of it actually protects you. In fact, if anything, it's a bit like throwing blood in the water for sharks. Okay? Because it's like you're basically marking yourself as someone who's conscious enough to know that the psychic phenomenon are real, but not conscious enough to know that it's not where the real power source is, which is the mystery underneath, beyond the psychic world. So you end up attracting more trouble to yourself than anything else, but it's very subtle and it looks like other things and it's hard to identify. So yeah, the whole idea of protection. Your biggest protection, if you want to think of it in those terms, even though it's not actually accurate, is the mystery. Just get very good at going into the mystery, because it won't go into the mystery with you. And the more you go into the mystery, you become like the house on the street with the burglar alarm. You're just not that appealing. They just don't want to, the hassle of it. So they'll just kind of leave you alone.